America, land of the free and the home of the fed. No, I don't mean federal. I mean fed, as in the past tense of feed. You see, 35.7% of all American adults are considered obese. I don't just mean people who are like fat, but obesity is considered when you have a BMI, a body mass index, of 30 points or higher. Now, your BMI is calculated by taking your body mass and dividing it by the square of your height. Someone like me, I weigh 145 pounds about, and I'm about 5'11", and my BMI is 20.2. Now, in order for someone my height to have a BMI of 30, they would have to weigh 215 pounds. Now, a simple principle in macroeconomics is that we should use our biggest asset to make money. It's basic capitalism. We truly have an abundance of fat people, alright, people? 35.7% of our citizens are fat, are obese, so why not use them to make money? We here at Prestige Tax Solutions believe that taxing obese people would help us relieve our massive debt. Right now, our national debt is currently $19.3 trillion, and our gross domestic product, our GDP, is currently only $18.3 trillion. That means the current debt is 105% higher than the GDP, and that's a problem. The current debt is $59,000 per person, which wouldn't seem like that big of a deal except for the fact that the average annual income is only $51,000, and not everyone pays the same taxes. So right now, it's looking like about $161,000 per taxpayer. And that's more than double the average annual income. Now, fat taxing could be a bad thing, because if we suspend our morals enough to say that we can tax someone because of their body, then we could open up an unfavorable floodgate. What's to stop us from taxing ugly people for breaking mirrors, or attractive people for making us feel bad? What's to prevent me from taxing somebody or making them pay extra because I don't like them, I don't like their body feature? What system of morals would be in place to prevent me from taxing blondes and not taxing people with brown hair or red hair? Nothing. The answer is nothing. We would have no safety to prevent some crazed madman from changing all these rules and manipulating our words. Though that may seem like a heck of a reason not to fund us, there is more to the story. I believe that a tax on obesity would give incentive for people to get into better shape and fix their lives. Also, there would be exceptions for people with medical disorders like diabetes, or who are born with metabolism offset that would make it hard to regulate fat content. And you're probably wondering, how do you tax children? Children don't pay taxes unless they work. But like young children, like 10 years old, don't pay taxes. That's not necessarily true, because children, when they buy stuff, pay taxes, sales tax. So we're also saying that as well as tax people who are points over the obesity limit, we would also tax fatty foods, sugary sodas, and generally unhealthy foods. This would make it way harder for people to sustainably eat fatty, unhealthy foods, and maybe give them incentive to get in shape. Remember, this tax is to help people, not punish them. You, average citizen, who's not fat. What do you think about our fat tax?
I think
the fat tax would basically tax people who are obese, and it would also, get ready for this, tax fatty foods and sugary sodas so people would not get more obese.
I think
it would be to make it harder for them to be fat so that they would not be fat anymore. And it would also make it harder to stay fat.
Alright, I think that's a good idea, because I don't really like walking around the streets of America seeing fat people. I also don't like being considered the fat country, because obviously America's the greatest country in the world.
Hey, do you know who Mary Shelley is?
She's the girl that wrote that book that brought the person back from the dead.
Exactly. What do you think she would think about this?
I think she'd probably think it's bad. I think it's a good idea to tax foods that are like sugary and fat, because they're really cheap right now, and healthy food is expensive. So I think if we flip that, people are more likely to eat healthy food, and maybe they'll get thinner, and we won't be considered a fat country anymore.
Now, we need to pack a punch, right? And what other better way to do this than to show you images of obesity in America? Helping these people with their issues is easy. We just need to make it harder for them to live unhealthily. If we tax fatty foods and fatty people, we can make it uncomfortable enough for them to change their lifestyle for the better. This isn't about punishing them, it's about changing their lives. Now, the question on everyone's mind right now is what would famed science fiction author Mary Shelley think? And we believe that Shelley would be against this taxation, as its benefits would be for some people, but it would definitely attack and hurt other people, which is clearly against what she says in her book. One man's life or death were but a small price to pay for the acquirement of the knowledge. Shelley, page 13. Though this quote may suggest Shelley's support, it really shows the opposite. This quote is from Victor Frankenstein and is referring to his telling of the story to Walton. Sure, it says he supports anything as long as it benefits science and humanity, but he says this in the beginning of his story, and in the end he counters it, saying that he wished he hadn't done what he did, and he wished he had thought about the consequences before he went ahead and did something like that. But success shall crown my endeavors. Shelley, page 8. This is also a similar place to the first quote. It demonstrates Victor's feverish determination, but again, is in the beginning of his tale, and does not reflect his attitude towards the end of the project. He and Shelley would have believed that determination is important, but you must think of the consequences before you do anything. And finally, do you think that I, then dead to agony and remorse? He suffered not in the consummation of the deed. Oh, not of the 10,000th portion of the anguish that was mine. Shelley, page 209. This is the monster talking to Walton about how Frankenstein had died, saying that, yeah, Frankenstein suffered, but I had to kill all those people. I had to do the bad thing to make him suffer. So I died more inside than he did. I suffered more. And I think what the monster and Shelley are trying to say there is that by removing our humanity like that and taxing someone because of their body could be a bad thing. And it might make us lose ourselves inside, lose our souls. And that would be torturing us more than torturing those who are being taxed. But in conclusion, fat taxing would be the best way to relieve our national debt, as well as relieve the massive weight off of our citizens' shoulders.